Hey, y'all, it's Michelle with SLP Full Disclosure. Thank you so much for joining us today. We are joined again by our friend from FitBux, Joseph Reinke, and I am going to be friends with him because he has so much information that I want from his brain into my brain. So, we did a podcast, and I encourage all of you guys, if you have not listened to it, to go back and listen to part 1 with Joseph, where he talks about the FitBux app, the benefits, what his professionals at that company can do to help you guys as young professionals with financial information, financial knowledge, and financial freedom. So today, when we had our intro call a few weeks ago, Joseph mentioned something about student loans, and we talked very briefly about it. And he said, wait a minute, I think we might need to do a podcast dedicated solely to student loans. So that is what the podcast is about today. So Joseph is going to be the one providing this information. We've got a few little questions on here because I know back in the day, I went to Ole Miss and I didn't have any undergraduate loans, but I did have graduate student loans, and I did the student loan forgiveness, working in the public schools, and got the majority of those loans forgiven, which was great for me. But now I am personally in with Parent Plus loans because I put my daughter through 4 years of college 100% by myself. So I'm hoping that we get some information on Parent Plus loans. So, why did you think it was important that we do a podcast dedicated directly, specifically for student loans? Because you said there's
So,
a lot changing.
yeah, up until like 3-4 weeks ago, it was like this topic already needed its own podcast just because there's so many different things with federal loans. There's, on top of that, should I refinance or not? How do I pay these things? How does it affect retirement? How does it affect, saving for a house? And how does it affect mortgage qualification? Like, just that alone can be chopped into probably 5 different podcasts.
And then
And
you throw consolidation in there. Should I consolidate? Should
uh
I do all these things? And who knows? I don't
correct.
know. So
And
that's what you're
then
going to tell us today.
Yeah, and then on top of that, about 3 or 4 weeks ago, they passed the budget reconciliation bill, the OBB, the One Big Beautiful Bill, or
Yep.
whatever they're calling it. And there was a part of that that completely changes the student loan system. And so you can combine both of those. And so it's like, what's here now? What is coming down the pike? It's like, yeah, that's its own episode. It's
Wow.
it's mind numbing to go through this stuff. So
Okay.
yeah.
So how are things changing? So since you and I spoke, things have changed.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they passed the bill. It's going. We have some tentative dates of when things are gonna be changing. I mean, because of these changes, just like the last week and a half alone, I've personally been on like 240, 250 phone calls with people because of all the changes that are coming down the pike.
Yeah. So, what is the most pertinent information? Because our audience, Joseph, as you know, this is an SLP podcast. So, we've got, young professionals that maybe just got out of graduate school. Maybe we've got kids that are in graduate school currently who are in that student loan process where they're taking out loans every semester. What is the most pertinent information that they need to know about student loans currently today,
So I'll
which
start
could
with
possibly change, I guess, next week?
yeah, I'll start with students because those are the easiest.
Okay.
And when we talk about new grads or people in repayment is when it's going to be a lot longer because there's a lot of things that are moving parts on that.
Okay, so we'll talk about students
Yeah,
first.
first,
Okay.
first. So as a student, like if you're in school right now, you're already in your program, you will fall underneath the old system of graduate plus loans, meaning basically whatever your school says the cost of attendance is plus cost of living, you can borrow all of that. Okay.
Okay.
There's no cap on that of what you can borrow. Um, and so if you're in school, that's what it is. Now, if you don't enter repayment before July 1st of next year, okay, so like if you graduate, say May of next year, and you're not on a repayment plan yet, after July 1st, you're going to be on the new system that for repayment that we're going to be talking about coming up in a few minutes. If you graduate like right now, maybe you just graduated in May, you're in your grace period, and you start repayment in November, you could still get on the old repayment plans, which you probably want to do. Okay. Which I could
Okay.
actually guarantee you that you want to do. And so that's the big difference for students right now. after July 1st of next year. So, like, if you're starting your program after July 1st of next year, you will no longer be able to get an uncapped amount of loans. Okay. Now, there's two systems that they are coming up with for uh, like doctorates and master's programs. If you just go to undergrad, the most you can take out in a given year is going to be $20,500. And the most you could take out lifetime is $100,000. Okay.
Okay.
And that's the same for a master's program. Your combined amount that you can take between undergrad and master's is 100 grand. Okay.
Oh,
If you go to a professional school, then you can take out $50,000 a year, and the most you could take out in federal loans is $200,000. Okay, so the big
okay.
question mark for future students, though, getting their SLP is what's considered a master's program and what's considered a professional's
I
program.
was just about to ask you, what's the difference in a master's program and a professional program?
Yeah, and they didn't define that in the bill, so we're still waiting to figure out what that is. But in the past, the way they defined a professional program was there was a couple different things. The two that we always focused on was is it a between undergrad and professional school, does it take 6 years or more to do?
Okay.
And is there a licensure exam at the end of it that you have to take before you can actually go into your field? Those are 2 out of, like, 6 or 7 different things that they use to help qualify for it. Some people in the industry still think that that's what they're gonna use to define a professional program.
Okay.
So, like, professions like a PA or an NP because it's doesn't require 6 years, they're gonna be considered a non-professional program. It's gonna be a master's program, and they're gonna be capped at $100,000, dollars. Programs like DPTs, OTDs, MOTs, potentially SLPs, like, they should be the bigger one.
Okay.
That is not in stone yet, though. We don't know, on that, but that is only going to apply for students starting after July 1st of next year.
Okay. All right. What about those students who are in repayment right now?
That's the
And the
crazy part.
okay. All right, let's get into that. I don't even know what questions to ask. I mean, because there's a million different questions, so I don't even know what's the most pertinent question to ask to get the most relevant information out there.
Yeah, so I'm gonna start with the history of this
Okay.
because every president, starting with Bill Clinton, has changed something to the student loan plan. Some of it has been just done through their own actions, just with a pen and paper and writing
Signing a
stuff
bill.
out. Some of it has been done through Congress. So the result over the last 25 years, 30 years is like this Frankenstein type of student loan system of this
Bits and
piece is
pieces.
here, this piece is here. If you
Mhm.
have debt on here and you took out loans here, then you qualify for this. But if you have one debt from this date, you don't qualify. You have to go here. And it's just, so a lot of people blame the loan servicers. Just like they're doing the best they can. like,
Right.
like, th-
Yeah.
like this stuff is so confusing. And I was joking around with someone the other day from 2016 to 2020 was probably the best time in student loans that we've had because President Trump was the only one that never changed anything. He just said, "This is what I inherited as a president. This is what the student loan system is." So we knew exactly what was going on, and those up until
Right.
COVID was really smooth. And then COVID
Mhm.
hit, and they put everything on like COVID forbearance. But then the loan servicer started implementing them, and it's just this whole chaotic mess. And then basically last July, when one of the programs got put on a stop because of the courts, the Biden administration just stopped processing paperwork. So there's like just this massive log of people trying to get on the repayment. And, the new administration is trying to get caught up,
Caught
but
up.
they also have, some of their hands tied because of some of these court decisions. And it's like, so who's to blame? It's like, well, you know, blame the last 30 years of garbage being put into this thing, right? So,
Right.
um, very confusing, but that's how we got here.
Okay.
Okay. So what is going on now? And that's key to understand of what's going on now because there are things called income driven repayment plans,
Mhm.
IBR, pay as you earn, save, old repay, ICR. And then with IBR, there's IBR for new borrowers, IBR for old borrowers, right? So to
Oh
make
my
this
word.
simple, yeah, to make this simple, what we do is we just say, look, think about this from a financial planning standpoint. Like, I don't care about the names of the programs. I care about financial planning strategies.
Okay.
Okay, you're either gonna pay off your loans or you're gonna go for loan forgiveness. That's
Okay.
what you gotta focus on. If you decide loan forgiveness, now we gotta decide what tool you use of those repayment plans. But in the big picture, what am I going for here? Loan forgiveness or paying off my loans? That's the key, okay? Paying off your loans are simple. Like with your federal loans, the current programs are either the 10-year standard plan or you can extend it out to 25 years so the payment drops and then you can make prepayments. Okay, so that's there right now. In terms of the standard plan, what's changing coming up here in the next year or two is it's going to be based on how much you owe. So, like if you owe less than $25,000, it's a 10-year standard plan. If it's $25,000 to $50,000 that you owe, it's the 15-year standard plan. 50 to 100,000 is 20 years, and then over 100,000 is the 25-year standard plan. So that's what you'd be going in. So
Mhm.
the payoff strategies are very simple to understand. Okay. Um, that's also where refinancing comes in. Refinancing is where you go from the federal government to a private lender once you graduate because you're trying to get lower interest rates and you're trying to
Okay.
save money. Okay. Is that the
And
right
then
thing
you
to do?
throw that word consolidation in there.
Yeah. And consolidation means just merging of the loans. So you
Mhm.
can consolidate some of your federal loans if you want to do that. But a lot of times when you refinance them, you also consolidate at the same time. You merge them together. So
Mhm.
that's where that comes in is in terms of consolidation and refinancing. But that's the payoff strategies. You're basically saying, which plan do I want to go on right now? Like if you're currently in repayment, you have that choice and then look into refinancing and if it makes sense. And you only want to look into refinancing if you're paying off your loans because once you refinance, you can't qualify for forgiveness anymore through the government. So that's the big decision is do you refinance or not? So that's the payoff strategies. And I'm
Okay.
going to go through loan forgiveness because that's the big beast that
Yeah, because
confuses
there's
a lot of
2
people.
different types of loan forgiveness.
Yeah. Yeah, there's many different types of but yeah,
Oh, okay.
there's 2 main ones, yes.
2 main ones.
Yes. But I'll pause there, see if you got any questions on, like, the student stuff or the payoff strategies, because those are the 2 easy ones before we dive into, like, the big picture of
I
the
don't
forgiveness.
I don't even know, Joseph, what to ask. Like, just give us the information, and then
Yeah.
I'm going to refer all of our listeners to FitBux and tell them to come to you because I don't even feel knowledgeable enough to even ask questions. I just wanna get this information out there because you're right. When I went online to look at it, within 5 minutes, I was overwhelmed, and I'm a smart, educated person, and I've got what about Parent Plus loans? Because
Yeah.
I have Parent Plus loans when I put my daughter through college.
Yeah, we'll talk about the Parent Plus loans because that's a whole other set. That's a whole
Oh
other
my
beast.
goodness, yes.
Alright, so loan forgiveness or income-driven repayments as they're called. So I talked about this whole Frankenstein system. First of all,
Yeah,
income-driven repayment plans are a combination of 3 different types of financial products. Like, instead of just picking one, the government decided to piece 3 things together, so they're a mess, like, in how they're even
okay,
designed, okay? And I know people on Wall Street that can't even explain to you how these things are actually work, okay? That's how
okay,
complicated they are in the internal guts of how they work, that's how complicated they are. So when you say, like, you're educated and you had a hard time, don't feel bad because, like I said, I know
okay,
people on Wall Street that can't even figure this out,
okay,
okay?
yeah, that did make me feel better. That
Uh,
did make me and do they purposefully make it this complicated, or is it just the happenstance because of all of the changes over the course of the last 20 to
it's just
25 years, like you
all the
said?
stuff over the last 25 years where they came out with one and then it's like, well, that's not affordable. So these people, so let's change this and then let's change that and let's change this and this sounds good. That doesn't sound good. Like,
Let's change this piece. Do you think there's somebody at the student loan world that knows everything there is to know about all of the different aspects of student loans? Probably not.
no, like
Uh,
it's there's some. I met a few that are older that have been through it the whole time, so they understand all of it, but they just throw their hands up and it's like,
yeah,
we don't know. Um,
okay. Alright, so
so
student loan forgiveness.
Yeah, so I'm gonna talk about normal loan forgiveness because everybody can qualify for this. It's because it's based on your income and how much you owe. Okay, it's
Okay,
not based on where you work or anything like that. It's just based on just your income, and that's it.
okay,
These are called income-driven repayment plans. So I'm gonna talk about what's there now, and this will probably take a few minutes to walk through, and then I'll talk about how it's changing coming up next year. Okay.
okay,
And the reason why I want to go through these now because everybody that's in repayment right now can qualify for these. Okay, that's the
okay.
big deal. You need to get onto a repayment plan because if you don't, you're not grandfathered in after the date passes.
After
Okay,
July 1st of 2026.
maybe. Well, I'll touch on that date in a minute.
Oh, alright, 'cause you said something about July 1st earlier.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh,
yeah, yeah. That there is a date for July 1st. but we'll see. Yeah, I'll touch on that
Well,
in a minute. Okay, so
okay. Oh
let's
my
go through how
goodness.
these things are built right now.
Okay,
Okay,
yeah, let's do that.
so let's just say I owe $153,000 in student loan debt based on an average interest rate, what we typically see. I would have what's called an interest charge of about $900 a month. That's how much my loans and interest are being charged every month. Okay.
Mm,
So whenever you have a loan, you're charged interest every month.
right.
In my case, it's $900.
Okay.
Well, these payments, let's just say I'm an SLP, I'm making $65,000 a year. If I'm on one of these plans, they might tell me, hey, your payment's $300 a month. So if my income's if my payments are $300 a month, but my interest is $900, my payment is not enough to cover the
The
interest on my
interest.
loan. Well, that $600 of interest I'm not paying, it doesn't just disappear. It gets added onto the loan balance. Okay. So when you're on these plans, your loan balance will continue to grow for like 90% of people. Your interest is your balance is going to continue to grow.
Mhm.
Depending on which plan you're on, it's either 20 or 25 years. At the end of that time period, your loans are be whatever you owe is completely forgiven by the Department of Education. Okay. So my loans can grow from 153 grand to 200 grand. It's gone. The 200 grand is forgiven. Okay.
Okay.
However, as of right now, when you have your loans, any type of loan forgiven in this country, you have to claim it as income in that tax year. So let's just say I'm on the 20-year plan and I have $200,000 forgiven 20 years from now. I have to claim $200,000 of income and pay taxes on it. So I'm going to owe
Stop.
like $60,000 in taxes in that tax year. Okay.
I had no idea.
Yeah, in our polls, about 80% of people on these plans have no idea about that. Yeah,
Wow.
and so when you're building out of course, we talk about financial planning, right? So when you're building out your financial plan, we call it a required minimum amount to save for the tax bond. You have to
Mhm.
save that. So, like, in that example, if I started saving about $175 a month and I did that for 20 years, it would hit that $60,000 that I owe. I can write a check, but that's just part of my financial plan at that point,
Right.
okay? Now, there's a few things that you need to be highly aware of what can change those plans over the long term because it's every year things change because you got to certify
Mhm.
your income,
Mhm.
how you save for that tax bomb. Do you use a Roth IRA to do it? Do you use a taxable investment account? Do you use a savings account? Like those are all questions that need to be answered. Um, and then from there, things like what if you get married? How you file your taxes affects
Mhm.
how that payment's made. Not only that, but what your spouse's federal loans can affect that. And then if you say, well, if I file separately, it's a lower monthly payment. It's like, yes, but you can no longer contribute to a Roth IRA. You might have to do what's called a backdoor Roth IRA. But then you might fall victim to what's called the pro rata rule. So like when you were asking, like in our previous podcast, like, why should my daughter's a teacher, why should she come to you for this? Or why would an SLP come? Just on that topic alone, if
Right.
you make the wrong decisions of how you're saving for that tax, or you make the wrong type of contribution to your Roth IRA, I mean, you're already talking about fines and penalties and loss of money all over the place just on that. And we're not even
Right.
talking about other things in your finances.
Yeah.
Um, and so that's how loan forgiveness or income driven repayment plans work. Now, the second type, that you said, there's two types, right? Public service loan forgiveness is the other really popular one, especially among SLPs. A lot of you guys work for nonprofits. And basically, what that is, a lot of people get confused. They think public service loan forgiveness is a repayment plan, and it's not. So, like, when you go onto your loan servicer, which your loan
Mhm.
servicer is who basically collects your money and answers your questions, okay?
Mhm.
If you go onto their websites and you're like, I'm trying to find the public service loan forgiveness plan, it's not going to be there. It's not a plan. The
Okay.
actual plan is what we just talked about. Like, it's the income driven
Income
repayment
driven.
plan.
Okay.
Public service loan forgiveness is a feature of those plans. And what that feature says is that if you work full time for a nonprofit and you make 120 on time payments, then that's 10 years.
That's 10
After
years.
those 10 years, your loans are forgiven. So you don't have to wait 20 or 25 years and you owe nothing in taxes. So you have like
Oh,
regular loan forgiveness, which is 20 or 25 years with a tax. And then you have public service loan forgiveness, which is 10 years, no tax. It does not have to be consecutive 10 years. It doesn't have to be at the same nonprofit or anything like that. Like it just has to be working full time at a nonprofit and making payments on an income driven repayment plan. And so that's what's out there right now. And what the big news is right now that came out like 3 weeks ago, one of the big things is one of the plans that was called SAVE. That was what was being challenged in court. While it was going through court, President Biden said that people could be on what's called forbearance, where you don't have to make a payment and that no interest would accrue. In February, they actually struck down everything in SAVE, which should have got rid of that, and it didn't. But earlier in July, the Trump administration said, we should have done this months ago. We're doing it
Mhm.
now. August 1st, interest is accruing again. So for
Yeah.
a lot of people that were waiting, there's no longer a reason to wait. Um, like you should be switching. So
Yeah.
that's the system there right now. And I'll talk about the changes in repayment coming up here. But again, I'll pause there because it's a lot of information to
I
digest.
I I have no idea. I have no idea what to even ask. Like, seriously, this is so much I think I am just completely in shock about the tax, that if you get your loans forgiven and you have $200,000 forgiven, that you have to pay income tax on that.
Yeah, well,
Why did I not know that? I'm
a lot of
so
people don't
glad
know
that
about
I'm
that.
part of the 80%
Oh yeah,
that
a lot
didn't
of
know.
people don't know about that. So a lot of people don't realize back in 2008 during the mortgage crisis, when people were getting foreclosed on, a lot of them had actually taken out like cash out refinances and stuff. When they got foreclosed on, they had to pay taxes on that money on top of getting foreclosed on. Like a lot of people didn't realize that. They didn't put that in the news very often. And what Congress did, they actually had to make a special law for I think it was 2 or 3 years that would allow people to go through foreclosure and not have to pay taxes. And
Wow.
Biden put a 3-year moratorium on that tax when he was president for student loans because he was trying to get the massive amount forgiven, like the 25 or 50 grand, and he wanted it tax
Mhm.
free. So he put a moratorium on it for 3 years, but because it's not written by Congress, it goes away after 2 years or 3 years. So it's already gone right now.
So, where are we now? So, we've talked about the different repayment well, we were just talking about student loan forgiveness. All
Mhm.
right. So, where do we go from here? What other information do we need to know? That's the question I'm gonna ask. What should we know now?
Yeah, so the new bill that just came out, it is now basically changing the standard plans, which we already talked about,
Okay.
but it's also changing the income-driven repayment plans.
Okay.
And it's basically saying if you start repayment prior to or after July 1st of 2026,
Okay.
you can either go on the standard plan or there's only going to be one income-driven repayment plan, and that's it. Not 5, not 6 or anything. There's just one. That new plan is called RAP, the Repayment Assistance Plan,
Okay.
and it functions a little bit differently, and I'll go through the quote unquote "good part" first because this is what a lot of the media is actually talking about, but then they're not talking about the back end bad part of this repayment plan.
Okay.
And so going back to that example I gave earlier, I have $153,000 and let's just say my payments are gonna be based on my income. The way they base this now is they changed that percentage of my income. Okay, it's a different calculation. Before, it was a flat, like 10% or 15% based on what's called adjusted gross income with a bunch of deductions and all this type of stuff.
Mhm.
It was pretty confusing to calculate. Now they're saying they're just going to look at AGI, adjusted gross income. So that's like a tax, I think it's like line 11 on your tax return. That's what they
Mhm.
look at. Okay. And they say, for example, if you make $30,000 to $40,000, it's 3% of that. That's what your monthly payment is. 3% divided by 12. Okay.
Okay.
If you go up to $40,000 or $50,000, it's 4%. 50 to $60,000, it's 5%. 60 so it keeps going up 1% for every $10,000 that you make in income. And then if
Okay.
you make over $100,000 or more, it's 10% and it's capped at that.
Okay.
So it's 10%, even if you make 200 grand, 300 grand, it's capped at 10%.
Okay.
Okay. So that's the first big difference that's coming out on how these are done. Then the next piece is going back to that example. Let's just say earlier I said my interest charge was $900
Mhm.
and they tell me that my payment is now $300.
Okay.
Okay. So that's $600 of
Oops.
interest. They're forgiving it right away with no taxes. So
Okay.
it's done. So the new thing is that if you're on this plan, your loan balance will never grow.
Okay.
Okay. In addition to that, for most people on this, the government is saying if your payment doesn't reduce your balance by $50 a month, they're going to reduce it $50 a month. So everybody on this new plan should see their balances going down
Okay.
something every single
Every
month.
month.
Okay. And so a lot of people are looking at that and it's like, wow, those are pretty good benefits. And those are the good benefits of this plan. The way it's structured is if you compare it to the old plans, lower income individuals will actually save money on their monthly payments. People that are making higher incomes will end up paying more because of the way the calculations are done.
Mhm.
Okay. And so that's that component of it, payment and the quote unquote good feature of interest subsidies and government paying part of it. What's really bad about these is that they're 30 years long.
Oh.
And so on the income driven repayment plans that are out there right now, they're either 20 or 25 years. This new one's 30. That extra like 5 or 10 years can cost a lot of money. So when we already start comparing these for people, it's like, yeah, that new plan is going to cost a lot. And so everybody that's in repayment right now, you have to make a decision because if you're in repayment, they will grandfather you in to the existing plans. Okay. And you have to try to go on to the best one to go on to is income based repayment for new borrowers. It's 20 years long. But where the confusion is that they haven't implemented this stuff yet. So some people can still qualify for pay as you earn, which if that's what you can qualify for, then you go on that. But just know in the next year or two, you're going to have to switch over to try to get over to IBR for new borrowers. But if all you qualify for is for IBR for old borrowers, that's a higher payment and it's 25 years long. So everybody on that has to really look at it and say, do I go on IBR? Like if that's all I qualify for is old borrowers, or do I switch to this new wrap plan and go the extra 5 years?
So basically, what I'm hearing is everyone who's listening to this podcast and has a student loan and are currently in repayment, they have decisions to make.
Correct. Correct. So I think in the last podcast I was telling you, or might have been earlier on this one that like I don't get on phone calls very often, but I've gotten on them in the last like 2 weeks and I've had like 240 phone calls. It's because of this. Like Like, people
Mhm.
are like, "What am I supposed to do? Like, which plan do I need to go on?" Um, and I mean, people that are having to make this decision right now just because of what's called save forbearance. It's something like 7 million people just off of that. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, it's a big decision to make, and it's confusing decision to make because it's like, "Well, which one do I qualify for? New IBR or old IBR?" It's like, "Well,
Which
we think it's
yeah.
this, but they haven't changed it yet, so we don't know yet." Like, so we'll see what happens in the next year, but that's what we're walking through. Primarily, most of our phone calls are all about that right now.
And when will people like myself and all of the listeners who have student loans, when will those decisions have to be made?
So that's where the confusion comes in. So if you don't start repayment till after July 1st of next year, the decision's easy because you don't have a choice. Like it's either the new
Okay.
payoff standard plans or a wrap. You don't have a choice.
Okay.
What the bill says is that everybody's in that's in repayment right now it says the Department of Education has to have them switched by July 1st, 2028. So it
Okay.
has to be done before that. So we know it can't be done after, but that doesn't change. That doesn't mean like, the Department of Education could come out and say, you have to do this by December of this year
Okay.
because it's still following
So
the
in other
law.
words, we really don't know.
Yeah. So that's what we're saying is the people, get onto it as fast as possible. And I think what's going to end up happening is the administration is going to do one of two things. They're going to say July 1st of next year, you got
Mhm.
to make the decision. Or they're just going to say, no, July 1st, 2028, that's the deadline. That's in the bill. You got 3 years to make the decision.
Okay.
And they're going to move on. So that's, where it's kind of laying at. I'm hoping to have more answers coming up here in August because there's another court date that's coming up. So we're hoping that they finalize some of this stuff for the old
Mhm.
plan. That should help answer some questions about the new one coming up. But that's where we're at right now.
I think my advice is anyone who's listening and has not reached out to a professional at FitBux, do that immediately now because they're going to be able to help you make the right decision for you based on your personal financial situation, correct?
Correct, yeah, and that's the whole
And
point.
I think that $18 a month is well worth having someone help you make this potentially life altering decision. If you make the wrong decision, then you're gonna be in a heap of mess, right?
Yeah, and even with the new ones, like, so for example, once you're on the new wrap plan, you can't switch off of it.
Mm.
Like, that's
Okay,
that's a big change as well coming up. Currently, you can switch plans, not anymore.
not
Once you're
anymore.
on it, you're on it.
Okay. All right, so I know some of our listeners are probably wonderfully in my age gap and in my demographic. They're not all 20 somethings. So there may be listeners out there who have Parent Plus loans. Let's talk briefly about Parent Plus loans and how all of this impacts that.
Yeah, so currently on Parent Plus loans, like, you can go on this thing called ICR, which is like a 25-year forgiveness plan. Most of the time, it doesn't really make sense because the payments are so high,
Mhm.
and so the only time we really saw it is if the parent worked for a nonprofit and they could get their loans forgiven in 10 years and there would still be something forgiven, or sometimes we saw it for people that were retiring, um, and their income was low, so they can go on ICR and the payments were really low.
Mhm.
Um, the new bill gets rid of ICR. And actually, I
Okay.
shouldn't even say the bill. It's the court that got rid of ICR, and so that's not going to be there anymore for people. It's gone. As the date that they've set on that is July 1st of next year.
Okay.
And so a lot of people are saying if you want to go on an income driven repayment plan, consolidate your student loans into a new direct loan, then they might be able to qualify for like IBR or one of these plans that you can get on so you can stay on an income driven repayment plan. Um, we personally are not recommending anything on that. And the reason being is because a lot of those changes were done by the Biden administration, not by Congress. And so it's like, well, that's what's all being thrown out right now in the courts because it wasn't passed by Congress. So we don't want to tell somebody something to do and then have it turn around and it not work and
Right.
it messes up their
Right.
entire repayment plan. It's like, oh man, like so that I know a lot of people in the student loan industry are telling Parent Plus borrowers to do that if they can get it done and don't wait. But after this takes place, it's only going to be the standard plans that are available for Parent Plus loans. Like
Okay.
the Parent Plus loans are going to have payment on.
I'm going into year 4 of just the standard repayment plan.
Mhm.
I think it's a 10-year plan.
That
So
is
do
the
I need to
standard plan.
yeah. Do I need to
So
consolidate?
the other
And how do
option
you
from
make that decision?
there's 2. No, you don't have to make the decision, but the decision you have to make is what a lot of parent borrowers have to make is there's actually 2 or 3 decisions. Um, Depending on your financial plan, you can also try to extend those loans out to the 25-year plan or the 30-year plan. I can't remember what it is for Parent Plus loans, how long it is, to drop the required payment because if you wanna make that money go towards something else, maybe you have, like, car interest rate debt you wanna pay for, something like that, you can do that. So that way you can just move money in your financial plan to where you want it to go towards. But the other 2 choices are you can refinance it into a lower rate, and you can do that into your name, and you're just paying it, or you can also refinance it and put it into your child's name, so that way you're no longer liable for it.
Okay.
And so those are primarily when we work with Parent Plus loans, that is what we are seeing is refinancing in one form or the other. Because
Mhm.
as I mentioned, a lot of the income driven repayment plans, they don't help parents anyways. So
Yeah.
that's typically what we're seeing right now.
Okay. Wow. So much information in such a short amount of time, and my mind is blown. Where can listeners go to get the most up-to-date information regarding student loans?
Yeah, so there's 2 areas. Like, if you're looking for our stuff on social, we tend to put everything on YouTube, just at
Okay.
FitBux. That's our channel. I try to put stuff up as often as we can. Plus, we put a bunch of other financial videos up there as well. And then if you guys actually want help, it's just fitbux.com, sign up, build your profile. As I mentioned, you can use the tools and the technology yourself, but we highly emphasize scheduling a call with us to walk you through everything and making sure that you're doing everything correctly.
Wow. Joseph, thank you so very much for all of this information. And We'll have all of your FitBux, we'll have all of that linked, we'll have your YouTube channel linked, and I'm gonna definitely go to that and start listening. And guys, if you're listening, reach out to FitBux. Get someone out there to help you. Don't just start making these decisions willy-nilly. Get a professional like Joseph or someone at FitBux to help you walk you through this student loan process. I'll use a nice word. So, thank you guys. Thank you, Joseph, so much for joining us. And thank you guys for listening. And we will talk to y'all soon. Thank you for tuning in to SLP Full Disclosure. You can learn more about this episode and our show on our website at amnhealthcare.com. If you enjoyed this episode, share it with a friend and subscribe to our show on your favorite podcast platform. You can also find show updates and SLP opportunities on our Instagram at AMN Allied. Special thanks to AMN Healthcare for making this show possible. See y'all next time.